Hey everyone, and welcome. If you've ever thought about how cool it would be to connect with people all over the world using just the power of radio, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today we're going to visually break down all the key things you need to know to get your technician license and get on the air. And let me tell you, this is about way more than just passing some test. It's about unlocking a totally new way to communicate, to experiment, and yeah, even to help out in an emergency. This right here is your first step on a really awesome journey. All right, let's jump right in and start with the very heart of it all. What is amateur radio really all about? So let's start with the big picture, the question that gets right to the core of this hobby. What's the fundamental reason the amateur radio service even exists? And there you have it. At its heart, ham radio is all about advancing skills. It's about learning, experimenting, and pushing the limits of what you can do with radio. It's a hobby that's literally built on curiosity and just getting better at what you do. Okay, so now we know the why, let's dive into the how. To get on the air, you gotta have a license, and that means you gotta know the rules. So, who makes? Every licensed service needs somebody in charge to keep things orderly and fair, right? So, who's the official regulator for ham radio here in the US? That would be the FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission. They're the ones who set the standards and all the regulations that every single operator has to follow. Now, let's talk about the license itself. Could you, collect a few of them, maybe one for your house, one for the car? How many can just one person hold? The answer is simple, just one. The whole system is designed to be straightforward. One person, one license. That way, all of your operating privileges are tied to one single, unique call sign that is yours and yours alone.
All right, so you passed your test. Congratulations. But how do you actually prove you're licensed? Do you get a little card to carry around in your wallet? In today's world, your proof is digital. The second your name and your new call sign show up in the FCC's Universal Licensing System, or ULS, database, you're official. It's a public record anyone can see online, and it's your green light to get on the air. Okay, so speaking of getting on the air, a huge part of getting licensed is learning the specific lingo of the airwaves. Let's check out a couple of key definitions the FCC uses.
You might hear the term beacon floating around on the air. Sounds pretty simple, but what is its official purpose, according to the rules?
A beacon is basically a radio lighthouse. It's a station that's sending out a signal, but not for a conversation. It's there for scientific reasons, so other operators can study how radio waves are traveling or propagating at that exact moment. All right, now for something a little more out of this world. What exactly qualifies as a space station in the eyes of the FCC?
It's a very specific definition. Any amateur station that's more than 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface, that counts. And yeah, this includes those awesome satellites built by ham radio clubs and even the ham gear on the International Space Station. So we've got our license, we know some of the lingo. Now, how do we operate in a way that's respectful and, effective? It's time to talk about the rules of the airwaves.
When you give your call sign, you might hear people say stuff like, Whiskey 4 Alpha Bravo Charlie. Are they just doing that for fun, or is there an official rule about it? Now, this is a key takeaway. The FCC doesn't just let you do this, they actively encourage it. In the world of radio, clarity is everything. Using a phonetic alphabet makes sure your call sign gets through perfectly, even if the signal is weak or there's a ton of static. Repeaters are fantastic tools that can rebroadcast your signal over a huge area. But to stop them from all interfering with each other, someone's got to coordinate all their frequencies. So who does that? This super important job is handled by a volunteer frequency coordinator. These are experienced people or groups who manage the local airwaves just to make sure everything runs smoothly for everyone. So if these coordinators are so important, where do they come from? Who gets to pick them? Is it the FCC? Get this, the community itself does. The local amateur operators, the very people who use and operate the repeaters, are the ones who choose their own coordinator. And this points to a really cool part of the hobby. It's largely self-governing. Okay, this next one is one of the most important ethical and legal questions in all of amateur radio. When is it okay to intentionally mess with another station's communication? The answer is crystal clear, and it's a core principle of the entire hobby. Never. Willful interference is strictly, absolutely forbidden. The entire system is built on mutual respect and cooperation. And that spirit of cooperation is never more important than when ham radio is called to serve the community, especially when things get tough. This is where the service in amateur radio service truly shines.
You often hear about ham radio operators helping out during natural disasters. A huge part of that is an organization called RACES. So what is it exactly?
RACES is really two things at once. It's the radio service that uses amateur frequencies for official emergency management, and it's the emergency service, made up of certified amateur operators who are trained to provide that communication when all else fails. It's a truly vital public service.
So we've covered the purpose, the license, the language, and the absolute core rules of the road. You now have the essential building blocks to get started. The airwaves are waiting. The only question left is, once that license appears in the database and your call sign is official, what will your first transmission be? Thanks for joining us on this first step.